Okay, it's Friday, and I don't want to bore anybody, but a little hot under the collar on this very cold Friday afternoon. About two bills specifically, but the entire principle behind them more generally. Senate Bill 1, Senate Bill 114, both intended to attack Jefferson County Public Schools and remove the representation that we as constituents have on the school boards for Jefferson County. Senate Bill 1 is a replacement to Senate Bill 1 from 2022. Essentially the same bill, is my understanding, that would give more power to the superintendents, take some away from our school board members, but only in Louisville. Other counties, like the sponsor of the bill, David Gibbons, lives in Greene County. Greene County's public schools would not be impacted by this bill. It's just Louisville where we can't trust our school board to make decisions for the county. The other is Senate Bill 114, which takes it a step further and says, hey, you can't elect the school board anymore. We're going to let your mayor do it and your metro council do it. And that's for districts with 25,000 kids or more, which would include Fayette. So same thing there. Fayette County residents could not, each district could not choose their own representative. Instead, we'd have appointed school board members. And it adds an element of partisanship. So it'd be aligned with parties, which is just stellar. And I guess what frustrates me, and there are two things that frustrate me, and again, I don't want to ramble for too long, but one is that we are continuously attacking Jefferson County Public Schools without talking to parents, without talking to teachers, without talking to students. We are coming in and we're saying, we know best. This is a legislature. And sadly, the leadership in Louisville, in the form of our business community, our CEOs, the wealthiest people of our community, they're saying, we know better than you, the residents and constituents of JCPS who send your kids to those schools, what needs to happen in your schools. And they point to Jefferson County schools and they say, look at their performance. Their performance is terrible. So this will fix it. No idea how, no indication as to what proves their point that this will fix it. But clearly the problem is that we elect our school board, and that's the problem. But I just truly am tired of the attacks on Jefferson County Public Schools. And I get there are a lot of things that are done there that are self-inflicted. I'm not happy with the present superintendent. I don't like the selection process that led to the candidates we have for superintendent. I think it should have been an internal candidate instead of going external, because those job searches always suck and they bring bad candidates. Usually people fleeing from another district looking for, to build resumes or get another high-paying job, and not people who really care about the district itself. And I'm not happy with his decision to hire an assistant using grant money that could have been used for any number of things that actually serve the community. I get that people think there's administrative bloat. I'm sure there is some. I don't think it's as bad as people think, but yes, we could shift our priorities and think about those things. But what we don't want to talk about is we look at it and we go, hey, these schools are terrible. These schools are underperforming. Look at Jefferson County. It has X number of schools that are in the lowest tier of schools. But we don't talk about why that is. And we don't have a legislature that's curious at all as to why it is. Instead, they assume they know the answer, or they have people who lobby them with their answer, which in this case is what I think has happened, because make no mistake, Greater Louisville Inc., the CEOs in Louisville don't like Jefferson County Public Schools. I would imagine that if you looked at the income levels of Jefferson County, the higher the income, the less likely you are to send your kids to Jefferson County Public Schools. We have about, by my estimate, and it's a very rough estimate based on census figures, I'd say there's at least 20,000 kids in Jefferson County who are not attending Jefferson County Public Schools. They're probably going to private schools, which means they're better off. They're going to have better opportunities all around. If they were in Jefferson County schools, they'd be bringing those test scores up. We don't discuss that. We don't discuss that in most of our other counties, everybody goes to the public schools. That's not the case in Jefferson County. And yes, we can point to them and go, well, that's because they're terrible. Well, no, sometimes this problem with schools is that the kids don't have what they need to succeed. And that's more so in Jefferson County than probably any other county in the state, because we have a higher percentage of poverty, we have a higher a greater number of homeless, greater number of immigrants, greater number of people who don't speak the language, people who have parents, one or more, who is incarcerated, dead. We've got neighborhoods that are far more violent than any other county. We've got people that have seen relatives who have been shot. They've seen friends shot. They've been shot. We've seen all of this in Jefferson County. It is a problem. It's not one problem based on a school board decision or bad teaching. It is a community problem of many factors that you do not see in most of our counties. You see it in Jefferson County. And we don't want to talk about that. We don't want to talk to teachers. We don't want to talk to actual parents of students in Jefferson County. We want to rely on the business community who won't send their kids there anyway unless they know they've gotten into Manual. Hey, he's going to the best school. Well, my daughter went to Manual. I can tell you it's a good school, but it's a good school in terms of rankings because it has all the best kids from the area. And if some of those kids don't get into Manual, where do they go? They don't go to the other schools in Kentucky or in Jefferson County. Their parents send them to private schools because they don't want to be mixed in with the riffraff. It's a problem that is not solved by a bill to eliminate DEI programs. We have a senator that is convinced that because Jefferson County has a diversity, equity, and inclusion office, that is the reason test scores are down. She has no proof. She has no evidence. But that's her assumption because she points to an arbitrary date and time without looking at the reasons that test scores may have gone down at that date, which had to do a lot with changes in standards. But she says that's the date that office came in here and scores have been down since then. We don't look at things like COVID and how they impacted our student performance. We don't look at poverty. We don't look at anything. All these things that shape what happens in Jefferson County and throughout the state, to a lesser extent, we don't look at how it shapes the data. In Oldham County, there are still poor kids. There are still kids who have trouble with language. There are immigrant kids. There is a small population of homeless kids. I will bet you that as a whole, they do worse than the kids that have every advantage in Oldham County. But you know what? Those numbers are so small that sometimes they don't even show up in the data because you can identify students. The lower the numbers get, the more you can identify student performance that way. So they're excluded from those numbers. So we have a legislature who willingly takes on these bills that I have no doubt are brought to them from people in Louisville. And they take those bills. They don't look at the problems. They don't look at how to address the problems, which our schools are doing far too much to try and address. Why are our schools tasked with feeding, clothing, finding homes, finding computers, finding technology, finding transportation, finding the basic needs of our kids? Why is it our schools are the main place where that happens for these children? I'm glad they do. I'm glad we have those resources. I'm glad that there is a group of people committed, thousands of people, teachers, administrators, support staff in Jefferson County, devoted to trying to help these kids have better lives, not just a better education, but the supports they need to make sure that education is still a priority for them and not where's my next meal going to come from. We do not discuss these things. Instead, we use Jefferson County Public Schools as a whipping boy, and we look at the numbers and we go, well, look, the minority population in Jefferson County is not doing well on our tests. Therefore, it must be a problem with diversity. Therefore, they're not serving the kids. Therefore, we must do something completely different. Instead of a logical discussion based on what people in the system see as issues, as concerns, as reasons kids are having trouble, as reasons kids struggle, as reasons that maybe the tests aren't a great measurement of achievement. Any of those things that are critical for Jefferson County and critical for education as a whole that we should be talking about. We don't do any of that. David Gibbons is not going to come to Louisville and talk to people about it. I challenge him to. I know he won't. The same with his co-sponsor, Steve West. Our business community really doesn't want to talk about it. or Greater Louisville Inc., they don't want to reflect that, hey, you know what, there are pockets of poverty and crime and other issues in Louisville. They'd rather ignore that rather than deal with it. And their solution is to change who our elected officials are. We've got another bill that seeks to break JCPS into several districts. Is that going to improve our school system? I mean, we've got Anchorage Independent in Jefferson County, probably one of the wealthiest areas in the state. Their schools look great. You know why? Because there's a ton of money there. Those kids are well off. Those kids have every support. Their school is great because they have an entire community devoted to that school and those kids. We break up Jefferson County into districts, we're going to have more Anchorages, and we're going to have districts that have little money, that have people who don't have the ability to feed funds to their schools to help them survive. We have very real issues, and they're not just school issues. They are community issues that always wind up being the responsibility of schools and the reason we blame schools for everything. And it's sad and it's tragic, and it's something that I just truly hate with this legislature. I hate nationwide. We do this all the time. Instead of solving problems, instead of looking at the root causes of these problems, instead of acknowledging that, yes, racism, financial disparity, economic disparity, all of these things that we don't like to talk about in this divided world do exist. And we do have to talk about ways to fix them, and that will help fix our education problems. That will help fix any number of problems we have in our society. But we don't want to talk about that. Instead, we know the solution, and here it is in this bill. How do we know that's the solution? Because someone handed it to us and told us that's what it was. And those people may or may not be involved with the actual problem itself, but they got the money. So we're going to listen to them. Anyway, so that's why I'm hot under the collar on this cold day. Probably more later, but I just wanted to rant for a little bit. So thank you if you stayed this long and listened.